He captured cash flow in 3 different industries during 3 different decades, with 3 different theses, and the same set of principles every time. Mark Cuban started with a $500 customer advance and built a $6 billion empire. This is how he did it. Dallas, Texas, July 7th, 1982. A 23-year-old from Pittsburgh pulls into town with everything he owns in the back of a beat-up car. He has $60 in his pocket and no place to live. He moves into a small apartment with 5 other guys and sleeps on the floor in the corner of a bedroom because there is no other space. The carpet is stained. He takes a bartending job, then a sales job at one of the first PC software stores in Dallas. He gets fired from that job within a year because his boss tells him to open the store one morning and Mark goes to close a customer deal instead. The customer signs. The boss doesn't care because the store opens late. Mark is let go that day, but the customer does not forget him. The next year, Mark starts his own software company called MicroSolutions out of an apartment with no investors, no bank loan, and no savings. The entire startup capital is a $500 advance from one of those former customers, fronted to buy software he's going to resell back to that same customer. That one transaction is day 1 of his first empire. By 1990, he sells that company for $6 million. By 1999, he sells his second company to Yahoo for $5.7 billion. By 2000, he owns an NBA team. He captured cash flow in 3 different industries during 3 different decades, with 3 different theses, and the same set of principles every time. What you are about to see is not luck. It is not the dot-com bubble. It is a blueprint. Mark Cuban used every single one of Palmer's principles. He just did not have a name for them at the time. But you do. Mark Cuban was born July 31st, 1958 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His father, Norton, was an automobile upholsterer who worked at the same shop for nearly 50 years. His mother, Shirley, took on whatever part-time jobs she could find. They lived in a working-class suburb on the south side of Pittsburgh. The family was Eastern European Jewish. Mark's grandfather had emigrated from the Russian Empire and changed the family name to Cuban at Ellis Island. He fed his family by selling merchandise out of the back of a truck. The family knew exactly what it took to start with nothing in a country where you had nothing. When Mark was 12 years old, he wanted a pair of basketball sneakers, so he asked his father for them. His father said no. Then his father said something that defined the next 50 years of Mark's life. If you want a new pair of sneakers, you need a job and you can go buy them. Mark went door to door in the neighborhood selling garbage bags. He bought the sneakers. By 16, he was running newspapers from Cleveland to Pittsburgh during a strike and starting a stamp trading business on the side. He was already an entrepreneur in a household that had no entrepreneurs. He took night classes during high school to graduate early, then transferred to Indiana University. Not because Indiana was famous for business, but because at the time, it was the cheapest of the top 10 business schools in the country. Even his college decision was a cash flow decision. He graduated in 1981 and took a job at Mellon Bank in Pittsburgh. He hated it. He spent his time studying computers and how the new digital systems worked. In July of 1982, he packed his car and drove to Dallas with $60 in his pocket and no plan. He did not have investors or a network. He did not have a single connection in Dallas. He was 23 years old. He slept on the floor. And in less than 2 years, he was going to start a company with one customer's $500 check that he would sell for $6 million. But he had to get fired first. Cuban's first job in Dallas was bartending. Then he found a sales job at Your Business Software, one of the first PC software retailers in the city. He was good at it. That job lasted less than 12 months. A customer called Mark and wanted to meet to buy software. Mark was scheduled to open the store the next morning. He went to the customer meeting instead and closed the deal. The store opened late, so his boss fired him on the spot. Most people would have apologized. Mark called the customer the next day, kept the relationship, and went home with a decision. He was never going to work for someone who did not understand that closing customers is the entire job. He was going to start his own company. There was just one problem. He had no money. So he called one of those customers, a company called Architectural Lighting. They needed software. Mark told them he could get them what they needed. He asked them to front him the money to buy the software so he could resell it to them. They sent him a check for $500. That was the founding capital of MicroSolutions. $500 from one customer who trusted him. No investors, no bank, no family loan. One relationship that became one transaction that became day one of a company that would eventually sell for $6 million. This is Palmer's principle number 4 in action. Individuals. Build strong relationships with partners and customers. The customer he kept after your business software fired him was the same customer who funded the company that replaced your business software. The relationship was the capital. He worked 16-hour days for the next 7 years. He learned to code so he could install and support the software he was selling. He became one of the most knowledgeable systems integration consultants in Dallas. The company started growing. And then, when Mark was 27 years old, MicroSolutions almost ended overnight. He went to the bank one day and discovered that his company had $2,000 in the account. The day before, it had $84,000. $82,000 had vanished in 24 hours. A woman had been doing the same routine for months. Mark would write checks to vendors. She was supposed to seal the envelopes and mail them. Mark called every vendor MicroSolutions owed money to, and he explained what had happened. He asked for time. Most of them gave it to him. The company survived. He never recovered the money. This is Palmer's principle number 7. Set up. Establish a legitimate business with proper legal structure. That includes the internal controls that protect your money from the people who handle it. One employee with a checkbook and a bottle of whiteout almost killed everything he had built. He has called this experience the best thing that ever happened to MicroSolutions, because it forced him to build the systems he should have built from day one. Dual signatures on checks, separation of duties, the boring infrastructure that turns a company into something that can survive a bad employee or a bad year. After that, MicroSolutions did not just grow, it compounded. 80 employees, almost $36 million a year in revenue. Never another losing month. In 1990, CompuServe bought MicroSolutions for $6 million. Mark netted roughly $2 million after taxes. He was 32 years old. Most people would have called that a career, but Mark was just getting started. After he sold MicroSolutions, Mark Cuban bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines. He flew around the world. He spent 5 years investing in technology stocks and not running a company. But the truth is, he was watching. He was watching the internet show up. And in 1995, he had a problem the rest of the world didn't know was a problem yet. He was a Texas resident, and he wanted to listen to Indiana Hoosiers basketball games. The games were broadcast on local Indiana radio. There was no way to hear them in Dallas. He called his friend Todd Wagner, an Indiana alum he had known since college. That conversation became AudioNet, later renamed Broadcast.com. The obstacle nobody talks about is that in 1995, the entire concept of streaming audio over the internet was considered a joke. The radio companies had no interest. The bandwidth was terrible. The audio quality was worse, and the audience was minimal because most people did not have internet connections fast enough to stream anything. Cuban and Wagner were not just building a product, they were building a market. They had to convince broadcasters that putting their content on the internet was a good idea. And they had to convince advertisers that the internet was a real medium. None of it existed yet. Most companies hit that kind of wall and call it too early. Cuban and Wagner looked at it and called it an opportunity. They began signing deals with radio stations one at a time. They got the rights to broadcast college basketball games over the internet because nobody else wanted them. They were beginning to capture cash flow that no broadcasting company in America thought was there to capture. This is Palmer's principle number 5. Networks. Build the systems that allow your business to scale. The entire infrastructure of internet broadcasting did not exist in 1995. So Cuban and Wagner built it. The streaming technology, the licensing relationships, the advertising sales process. They did not wait for somebody else to build it. By 1998, Broadcast.com was hosting streams for over 400 radio stations and 40 television stations. They went public on July 17, 1998. The stock priced at $18 and closed the first day at $62.75. It was the biggest first-day pop in IPO history at the time. But Cuban knew something most of the founders around him did not know. The valuations did not make sense, and the crash was coming. He just did not know when. Subscribe for more videos that break down how to make, manage, and multiply more money. April 1st, 1999. Yahoo acquired Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion in Yahoo stock. Mark Cuban personally received approximately 14.6 million shares. At the time of the deal, that stake was worth roughly $1.4 billion. He was officially a billionaire. There was just one problem. Yahoo had not paid him in cash. They had paid him in their own stock. And the deal included a 6-month lockup period during which Cuban was legally prohibited from selling or hedging a single share. Most founders in his position spent that 6 months celebrating, but Cuban spent it watching. By January 2000, Yahoo's stock was over $200 a share. His stake was worth more than $3 billion on paper. Everyone around him was telling him to hold and let it ride. Cuban thought everyone around him was about to lose everything. The day his lockup ended, Cuban executed what is now considered one of the top 10 trades in the history of Wall Street. He set up what is called a collar on his Yahoo position. He sold call options that capped his upside at the current price. He used the money from those calls to buy put options that protected his downside if the stock crashed. He capped his profits to lock in his fortune. People around him called him crazy. 6 weeks later, the dot-com bubble burst. Yahoo's stock began its long collapse. Within 2 years, it would fall from the high 200s to roughly $5 a share. Cuban's friends and former colleagues who held their Yahoo stock without hedging it watched their fortunes evaporate. Cuban's collar protected him almost completely. He preserved over $1 billion in liquid wealth at exactly the moment that the rest of Silicon Valley was burning. This was Palmer's principle number 7 again. Setup. 5 years after the embezzlement, the collar trade taught the world that legal structure can save a fortune. He paid for the lesson once with $82,000 in 1985. He never paid for it again. In January of 2000, with that protected fortune in hand, Cuban bought the Dallas Mavericks for $285 million. He upgraded the practice facility, chartered better planes, and treated the players like the assets they were, instead of the cost center the previous owners had treated them as. Within 11 years, the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA championship. In 2012, he joined the cast of Shark Tank. In 2022, he launched Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company. The thesis was that the prescription drug pricing system in America was rigged against patients. Within 2 years, Cost Plus was offering thousands of medications at radically lower prices than CVS, Walgreens, or major insurance plans. By 2025, Forbes valued his net worth at approximately $5.7 billion. The kid who funded his first company with one customer's $500 check had built 3 businesses worth billions of dollars in 3 different decades. And he was still going. There will never be another Mark Cuban. But you can achieve a similar level of success if you understand how he did it and you put in the work. The same principles that turned one customer's $500 check into a $5.7 billion fortune are available to you right now. The blueprint is at capturecashflow.com. Every letter of the acronym BUSINESS maps directly to actions Mark Cuban took on his way from sleeping on a floor to running an empire. B. Belief. Because Cuban believed one customer's $500 check was enough to start a company, he built the entire foundation of MicroSolutions on a single relationship and a single transaction. By the time he had a real bank account, a real office, and real employees, he had already proven the model. Belief was not a feeling, it was the decision to start before he was ready. Undertaking. Because Cuban built the habit of working 16-hour days for 7 straight years at MicroSolutions, he did the work that turned a $500 customer advance into a $6 million exit. He learned to code so he could support his own product. The undertaking was a man in an apartment with a phone, working until midnight every night, for years. That is what compounded into the company that CompuServe wrote a check for. Service. Because Cuban served customers the established players had ignored, he captured cash flow from markets that nobody else thought were real. MicroSolutions served small businesses without IT departments. Broadcast.com served listeners who wanted internet streaming when major media thought streaming was a joke. Cost Plus Drugs serves patients getting overcharged by a pharmacy system designed to extract from them. Every company Cuban has built has served a customer the established industry was ignoring. Individuals. Because Cuban built every business one relationship at a time, the customer who fronted him $500 in 1983 became the foundation for MicroSolutions, and the friend named Todd Wagner from his Indiana fraternity became the co-founder of Broadcast.com 12 years later. He did not network. He built relationships, individuals over institutions, every single time. Networks, because Cuban built the infrastructure that did not exist when he needed it. He ended up owning the system instead of paying somebody else to use one. Broadcast.com built the entire infrastructure of internet streaming when no broadcasting company thought streaming was a real category. Cost Plus Drugs built a direct-to-consumer pharmacy supply chain that the established pharmacy benefit managers said could not work. Every time Cuban needed a network that did not exist, he built it himself. Evaluation. Because Cuban evaluated himself harder than anyone else evaluated him, he caught the dot-com crash before the market did. Most founders in 1999 thought the boom would last forever. Cuban looked at the same numbers everyone else was looking at and reached a different conclusion. The collar trade was not luck. It was the result of a man who refused to accept consensus. Evaluation does not just mean checking your work. It also means questioning the conclusions everyone around you has accepted as true. Setup. Because Cuban learned at 27 that internal controls could save a company. He built every business he ever ran with structure that protected what he was building. The embezzlement cost him $82,000 in 1985. The Yahoo collar trade saved him roughly $1 billion in 2000. Both were the same principle. Setup. Mark Cuban paid the tuition once. He never paid it again. Shout. Because Cuban let his work shout first, he became one of the most recognizable business personalities in America without ever needing to manufacture a brand. He bought the Mavericks and won a championship. He went on Shark Tank and made deals on national television. He launched Cost Plus Drugs and let the prices speak for themselves. He did not become famous and then build companies. He built companies and the fame followed. That is the right order. Mark Cuban started with one customer's $500 check, an apartment he shared with 5 strangers, and a software company he was running out of a bedroom. He used all 8 principles, but he did not call them Palmer's principles. He called them hustle, he called them sales, He called them outworking everyone around him. He called them paying attention to what was actually happening instead of what everyone said was happening. He called them protecting his money before he had any money to protect. But Mark Cuban is not the story. You are the story. Because right now, there is a customer somebody is overcharging. There is a market the established players are running on assumptions that are no longer true. There is a system designed to extract from the customer instead of serving them. And you have the ability to see that system clearly if you learn to understand the needs of the customer being extracted from. If you build something that serves that customer the way the established players refuse to, that is your competitive advantage. Mark Cuban followed the blueprint and turned a $500 customer check into a $5.7 billion fortune. Can you follow the blueprint?